Hey everybody, I'm Videobob. This is my 2004 Rolls-Royce Phantom. Today we're going to be talking about what it's like to own and daily drive a Rolls-Royce Phantom, and we're going to talk about how you can live your dreams of driving around like a rich guy in a car by using depreciation as your friend. We're going to talk about what it costs to own and maintain one of these cars, what it's like to drive one as a daily driver, and can you really use it as a daily driver? Well, I say you can, so join me today with the Rolls-Royce Phantom. Now, some of you that are regular viewers of my channel kind of know the story of this car, but for those of you that are new, I'm going to fill you in. I bought this car in early 2018, found it on eBay, and got it for a steal. I got it for only $65,000. Now, this car was wrapped in black and white vinyl. It had big, like 24, 26-inch wheels on it, and it was used as a rental car. It was rented out for proms and weddings and even to drive the company in Houston. Well, it was ready for a lot of maintenance. It was already up to about 70,000 miles, and it was ready for some TLC. It was getting a little long in the tooth, and the owners knew that it was going to be time for some expensive maintenance. And they let me have the car super cheap. And it was the cheapest Rolls-Royce Phantom for sale, and that I know of that has been sold that wasn't a salvage title in America. We're now getting to the point where after 15 years, these cars are getting to be much more affordable. This car was originally almost maybe $400,000, and a new one now in 2020 would cost you over $600,000. But by using depreciation, you can get a car like this for an amazing price at 10 or 20% of its value. But it's going to cost you. So you want to have about an $80,000 budget to buy your 2003 and up Rolls-Royce Phantom. But it's going to need some stuff, guaranteed. And we're going to talk about some of the most important things that you're going to want to put money into. Let's start off talking about these wheels. Now, these aren't the wheels that came on my car. As I told you, it had some aftermarket wheels on it. You're going to find that a lot of the cars out there, the Rolls-Royce Phantoms, are going to have aftermarket wheels. Or you're going to find some cars with their original wheels with very low miles, and they're going to have a thing in the ad that's going to say, needs tires. Let me explain. The original first generation of the Phantom 7 that came out, which was the one that was built by BMW when they took over Rolls-Royce in 1998. They came out with this car in 2003. Well, they were using some wheels called the PAX system, P-A-X. It was a run-flat system where, well, without getting into too much detail, the wheel was in separate parts. It had a big rubber donut inside so that if you had a flat tire, you could ride on that rubber donut that was attached to the rim. It took a special machine to change the tires. Well, that didn't work. Not enough people were interested in that system. They went out of business. You couldn't get the tires. So it got to be to a point where there just weren't any tires available, and you were going to spend maybe $10,000 or $12,000 to replace the tires. So it was much cheaper to just buy new wheels. These are Ghost 21-inch wheels. If you buy them directly from Rolls-Royce, you're going to pay about $4,000 a piece, and then these run-flat Goodyear tires are about $1,000 a piece. That's a lot of money. You're going to end up spending $20,000 for wheels and tires. But there are so many people out there who bought either a Ghost, a Wraith, a Dawn, or a Phantom, and they changed their wheels and put aftermarket wheels like a Santes or whatever. You know, I'm not into these kind of wheels, but I'll reserve judgment. But that left a lot of OEM wheels available. I picked these wheels up. I paid $4,000 for the four wheels, but then had to put new tires on them, which was an additional $4,000. So there's $8,000. So you're going to want to have in your future budget when you buy the car as much as $10,000 set aside for wheels. Let's have a look under the bonnet of your Rolls-Royce Phantom. Now under here you will find a 6.75 liter V12. Yes, 12-cylinder motor. This is the same engine out of the BMW 7 Series, the 760 Li. This is going to come into play when you need parts. So I'll tell you a little bit about what I've done with this car. I got it at about 70,000 miles. Well, it needed a water pump. Got it at O'Reilly's for I don't know, $100. Replaced some of the hoses. We replaced one of the 2 alternators. There are 2 alternators. They are liquid cooled. There's a cavity on the bottom of the motor that holds the 2 alternators. One of mine seized up. When I called Rolls-Royce, they wanted $1,700 for the alternator. Well, when I called O'Reilly's Auto Parts, they wanted $580. So you can see that if you ask for the BMW 760 parts, you'll be able to get those a lot cheaper. There are certain things that are Rolls-Royce specific, certain routings for the hoses and things that I did have to get from the dealer. But other than that, most of the parts have been pretty affordable and would be the same parts that you would buy for a BMW 7 Series. So, you know, things like changing the oil cost the same as any other regular car. You got like a $10 oil filter in the oil. There's no reason to take it into the Rolls-Royce dealership and pay them $600 for an oil change. It's not like a Bugatti Veyron. You can do it yourself. So there's a lot of things that we've done on here. And if you haven't already watched the videos on my channel, go back and look at some of the Rolls-Royce videos on my channel. And you can see where we replaced the ABS control module, the alternator, and some of the suspension parts. And we're going to get to that next. All right, let's talk about the suspension on this bad boy. A common problem with the Rolls-Royce cars, not just the Phantom, but the Ghosts, all of them. You got that big giant motor. That's a heavy motor, right? That's gonna weigh quite a bit. This puts a lot of strain on your lower control arms. You have a control arm coming from your lower cradle that runs out to your main carrier that holds your wheel. And it gets a lot of lateral movement from braking, taking off. There are ball joints. The way BMW and Rolls-Royce do all of their bushings is they're galvanized right to the cast metal, meaning you can't change them. So what you have to do is you have to change the entire part. So in order to fix this, you're going to have to change your entire lower control arms. These aren't super expensive. I think I paid about $1,200 for the pair, which isn't bad. That's what you might pay for almost any luxury car. Even on my Cadillac CTS-V cost about that much. So we had to replace those. We did replace all of the disc rotors. Now these were a little bit more expensive than a normal car. I think they were about $600 a pair, so that was about $1,200 front and back. Then there are little sensors that detect how much brake pad you have left. Those are about $30 a piece. The pads were about, I think, $200. So it was about $1,500 to do the entire brake system, and then also another, $1,200 on those lower controls. And we're eventually going to have to replace some of the other knuckles and bushings and things. And the only way that we're going to be able to do that is to replace those entire parts. But after 15 years and 80,000 miles, that's pretty typical of any large luxury car. I can tell you that my Cadillac CTS-V, after only 2 years and 50,000 miles, needed a lot of those things, and it was a lot of work. So these are things that you're going to want to have in your budget. You're going to want to have $10,000 set aside for wheels, and you might want to have an additional $5,000 set aside for doing upgrades and repairs to your suspension system. Now, this is hoping that your air springs aren't bad. The car has an air suspension system. Those are expensive. Each of those air shocks can run anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 depending on the part and the supplier. If you have to replace those, that's going to really suck. That could cost you as much as $20,000, and you don't want to have to do that. But keep in mind that when you're buying a car that's at its bottom of its depreciation, the reason you're getting it so cheap is because these maintenance items are going to have to be done. But here's the great thing about it. The good thing is that once it's all done, you end up with a car that has brand new brakes, brand new bushings, brand new engine accessories, brand new shocks, brand new tires, brand new wheels. It's all brand new, just like a new car. This motor is bulletproof. It's a V12. I don't think the motor is ever going to go bad on you. You might have to do the transmission after a couple 100,000 miles or something. But I doubt that motor is going to go bad on you. It's just all the little accessories and things that are going to have to be upkept. So keep that money set aside. So if you're going to buy an $80,000 Rolls-Royce, you might want to have another $40,000 set aside to completely refurbish it. This car is big. It's a big car. It's like 19 and a half feet long, like 7 feet wide. I think it weighs 6,000 pounds. I'm 6'2". I weigh 240 pounds, and I'm dwarfed by this car. It's funny. I know you're watching the video thinking, is this guy like a little person? No, I'm a big, big guy. This is a big, big car. Let's talk about the paint finish of these cars. The Rolls-Royce paint finish from the factory is one of the finest paint jobs that there is. It's painted by robots. 6 layers of paint, couple of layers of clear, polished for like 5 hours by 5 different dudes. It's a $30,000 paint job. It's one of the best in the world, and it's flawless. When you look down the side of the car, you won't see any ripples, you won't see any orange peel, you won't see any of that. But after about 15 years, not sure what it's going to look like, and who knows what some bonehead might have done to it. They might have repainted it, or like these guys, they wrapped it. When they wrapped it, it was hiding a bunch of body damage. So if you find one of these cars and it is vinyl wrapped, you're taking a huge risk there, because when we peeled the wrap off, we found all sorts of repaired body damage. Instead of repainting the car, they just wrapped it. Because you can wrap this car for like $5 grand, but to paint it, it's a little bit more. So after we unwrapped the car, we decided to repaint the car. I spent $8,500 on this particular paint job. Now the car was already originally this titanium color. I had it repainted the same titanium color, and the reason I had to repaint it was because there was a lot of repaired body damage where they had done a little Bondo work, a little block sanding, but they didn't repaint it, and I thought it would be better to stick with the original color so all the jams and everything would match. But to modernize the car a bit, we added this black diamond top. This is a glittery black diamond. You probably can't see it on camera right here, but it's a black diamond, which is a Rolls-Royce color. And this is a popular paint scheme. Now, usually you'll see the two-tone Rolls-Royces with the black on the outside and the silver on top. That was very popular, but you'll also see this very same scheme, and I really like it. I think it really modernizes the car, changes the way it looks quite a bit, and everybody seems to love it. Now, you don't have to do a two-tone if you don't want to, and some people don't like the black wheels. I happen to be a big fan of black painted wheels. I'm not a big fan of chrome. I think chrome is kind of dated and kind of overdone, but that's a generational thing. I prefer the black wheels, and they go great with this paint, in my personal opinion. But hey, wheels are easy to change. It takes like a few minutes, really, and an air ratchet, and you can change your wheels. So that's not a big deal, but the paint is something that you really want to invest in. Now, if you have original paint and it's just kind of cruddy looking, look into paint correction. For around maybe $1,500, you can have a really good paint correction done, where they do a cut and polish, buff the thing out and have it ceramic coated, and it'll really bring back the look of your paint, because the Rolls-Royce paint, as I mentioned earlier, is so thick that you can bring it back and it will look fantastic. Or you could consider doing a wrap. But I gotta be honest, the paint is really the way to go. It's really up to you, and it's really up to your budget. But you're gonna wanna have around $2,000 to $10,000 set aside for the refinishing of the car, because you really need it to look as best as it can be. You don't wanna be driving around a car that's got scratches and swirls and dings and dents in it. That's not cool, that's not gonna fly. Another question you might be asking yourself is, well, is there a particular model or options I should be looking for? You're not going to really have a lot of choice in the matter. They only built about maybe 10,000 of these. They only build a couple of hundred a year. These are built by hand. And each one is built bespoke for the person who ordered it. And there's any number of options. You can get it in any color. You can get the interior done in any way. But the majority, especially the early ones, were kind of done pretty much in a lot of the same way. They generally would come with wool carpeting, which is fantastic. If your carpets are missing when you get your car, I highly suggest that you find even some used ones. That's what I did with mine. I found some used wool mats for only $600 and had them cleaned, and they look fantastic. Some options that you could have gotten with the car are things like, for instance, the rear theater package, where there are little screens in the back of the seats. But quite frankly, they're not very good. I mean, unless you got the DVD changer with it. And really, are you going to be watching DVDs on this little screen? It's not very good. It wasn't until the much, much later years, up until past, I think, 2010, that they got the bigger screen. I'll have to check on that. But some other options you had were privacy curtains that were powered, that would go around the windows, a powered trunk, which I do not have and greatly regret. I wish I had the hydraulic powered trunk that went up and down. Mine, I have to close it like a plebeian, as Doug DeMuro would say. You could have also gotten a chiller that would be inside the armrest in the back seat that would cool your champagne and things like that. Now, my car has an aftermarket Starlight headliner added. You know, when that came out, when Rolls-Royce brought that to market, that was about a $17,000 option. But now you can get a custom shop that can do that for you for not a lot of money. Matter of fact, you can buy the fiber optic Starlight kit, I think, for as little as under $100. The hard part is taking the headliner out and installing it. But it looks fantastic. So if you don't have it in your Phantom when you buy one, make sure you put one in, because everybody looks for it. A lot of times you'll get the car, you probably know about the umbrellas. Usually you're going to get a car and the umbrellas are missing. I had to go out and find my umbrellas, and I think they were used about $300 a piece. Well, let me tell you, well worth it. I use these all the time. They're great quality, and people look for them. If you're going to have the car and enjoy it, people know about certain facets of the car, and they're going to want to see these things. And let's face it, you're buying the car because you want all of the amenities that it offers, and you want to make sure you have all those things. Make sure you put your Grey Poupon in the glove compartment. People are going to look for it. So you might want to know, what are some of the hidden costs to owning a Rolls-Royce Phantom? Well, aside from insurance and mechanical stuff like that, tips. You got to tip a lot. You know, when you take this car out, you don't want to just put it in the garage. You don't want to just leave it on the side of the road. You don't want to park it at a curb, at a meter. You don't do those things with this car. You just don't. You don't want to use it for your regular shopping if you can help it, unless you're in a fairly decent neighborhood. I took it to a Walmart, came out, there were footprints on the hood. It's probably now in a hip-hop video or something. You know what I mean? So you're going to want to tip. But here's the great thing about it. When I take this thing to a restaurant, right? When I show up, whatever they got parked out front, I don't care if it's a G-Wagon or a Jaguar, a Porsche, whatever. They're going to move it, and they're going to put my car up front. There's a price for that. You can't give that kid $5. You got to give him at least $20. I've been asked for tips of $100. Yes, they ask. They go, that'll be $100. I'm like, what? But that's what happens. And that's how you expect to get treated. When I take it to North Park Mall here in Dallas and I pull up out front of Neiman Marcus, they don't go put it in the parking lot. They leave it there in the fire lane right by the valet stand, and they don't ask for my key. They leave it right there and stare at it and protect it with their lives. And I give the kid a 20. But when I used to drive my Cadillac to the mall, I parked it in the parking lot. I don't care what you pull up to the mall in, or the restaurant, or the whatever, unless it's something really, really nice, like a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or something like that. But I've seen them move a Ferrari and put my car there. This is class. This is style. This is what every business wants outside, promoting them and showing this is the type of customer that we have. So when I go to one of the finest restaurants in Dallas, I get preferential treatment. They don't put it in the lot, they leave it out front. So you're gonna have to tip a lot. Put that into your budget. This thing does great on gas, actually. It's better than my Cadillac, better than an Escalade, better than a CTS, believe it or not. And it's a huge tank, a 26-gallon tank. I only gotta fill it up about once a week. Now, all that said, there's another problem that comes along with the Phantom. And it's just a social distaste for wealth. Here in today's society, well, people want to look down upon people that are wealthy and successful. So you got to be careful. You don't want to get your car keyed or stomped on or kicked in or tire slashed from some social justice Antifa warrior who's mad that you have something that they don't. Well, you can't really protect yourself. I mean, you can't really stop somebody from hurting the car. But I have black view cameras in the front and the back. I have 360 cameras in that car that are running all the time, not just when the car is on, but all the time, 24 hours a day. And you want to have security system for the car, and you want to park it inside a garage. Don't buy this car if you have to park it outside or you don't have a safe place to keep it. Just don't do it. Now, those things being said, it's been absolutely great. I've loved every minute of owning the car. It's been fantastic. It hasn't let me down. You know, when I first got it, I had a little water pump issue, had to have it towed in and fixed. You know what? That's happened to almost every car I've ever owned. It's not a big deal. So I see people in the comments all the time saying stuff like, you know, you could have bought a new Mercedes, you could have bought a new BMW, you could have bought a this, you could have bought a that. I don't want any of those things. There's nothing that you're gonna buy for around $100,000. Nothing. Nothing at all that's gonna give you the prestige and the enjoyment of this car. There really just isn't. People lose their minds when they see this thing. I had a carload of girls, this is no lie, and this is not safe for kids. I had a carload of girls offer themselves to me just because I had this car. They said, you know, we would be happy to be with you right now. I was like, no thanks, ladies. I'm married, but thank you. So if I were a fat, bald, unmarried 45-year-old, and my goal was to go out and find some girls or whatever I was looking for, this is the car. This is the car to have. Trust me. But you got to be able to back it up. Listen, if this is the only thing that you own, right? If you're some poor schlep, this is the only thing that you own and you live in a trailer, it's probably not going to work out too good. This is something that you buy if you can afford to have it, okay? If you can't pay cash for this car, don't buy it. If you need to borrow money to buy this car, don't buy it, right? I wrote a check for this car, done, I own it. If you can't do that, you do not need this car. That's just my personal advice to you. Who am I to say? But hey, look, that's the way I feel about it. And since I bought it already at the bottom of its depreciation, I'm not losing anything. I could probably sell this car for as much as I paid for it, if not more. And that's the trick, and that is the key. Buying at the bottom of your depreciation. That is the trick to, I mean, imagine you bought one of these brand new for $400,000 and then sold it for $65,000. No way, dude. No way. You're losing. You're losing big time. Well, there's a lot of ways to enjoy the back seat of your Rolls-Royce Phantom. This is how I like to do it. A little bit of Louis XIII. This is Remy Martin's Louis the 13th. It's about $150 an ounce. And it's a delicious cognac. I did a video about this in one of my other videos. And cheers. Here's to success. Well, there's a lot of fun that you can have in the back seat of a Rolls-Royce. You can easily fit yourself and two women back here. Don't ask me how I know. Once you're wrapped up in all this luxury, if you're lucky, you'll find one with the color interior you're looking for. I was looking for black interior. I'm pretty sure you can tell that I like black. How do you like my new Versace black leather parka? Very nice, isn't it? Anyway, love black. It's my favorite, black and red. Typically, you're going to find these in a camel or a tan or a kind of a buttercream kind of color. That seemed to be really popular. A lot of the older generation really like those. That's not my favorite. There's about 17 cowhides worth of leather in this car. So this is not a good candidate if you need to do leather repair, leather restoration. Leather restoration. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. So, one sip. Woo! That's good. That's like that's like $80 worth. Anyway, you know, there's a lot of cars that I've worked on in the past where we've pulled the interior out, did a color change. This is not one of those cars you want to do that in. It is possible if you're really willing to do it. It's a lot of work. But I will say that the leather that they put in here is some of the best leather in the world. It really is. Now, hopefully there's no cuts or tears in the car that you'll find. If there is, they can be repaired. And if there's a little fading, that can be repaired too. It's really not that difficult to re-dye and restore some of this leather. And Rolls-Royces, even after 15 years, they really don't show a lot of age. You know, I think that Rolls-Royce's biggest enemy is itself. I think the thing that stops people from going out and buying a new Rolls-Royce is that the old ones are still so good. And there's this weird thing between the old Rolls-Royce crowd and the new one, meaning before BMW bought them in '98, all the cars were built in Crewe, and they were built alongside Bentleys. And then the company split off, and then they started building these cars in Goodwood. And there are these purists out there that just say, it's just a gussied up BMW. Let me tell you, this thing is a Rolls-Royce through and through. And quite frankly, in my opinion, much better than the older cars. The older cars suffered from rust. They were hydraulic systems that failed. They were Bosch mechanical fuel injection systems, much like on the DeLorean, which I know a lot about. And you've probably never even seen one of those old cars driving around. There's a reason, because they don't. So I'm not really talking about the older pre-2003 Rolls-Royces. Listen, you want to get a nice silver Seraph, or you want to get something like that, go ahead. If you're a fan of those and you like working on things, be my guest. But if you want a car that you can actually drive, the Phantom 7 is the way to go. That's just, it's just the facts, folks. And you don't see a lot of these out there. Like I said, they only made a couple of hundred a year. And most of the people who buy them, they just put them in their garage. They use them every once in a while to go to dinner or be dropped off at the airport. They're not always driving them themselves. And, you know, they're finally now getting to a point where they're kind of affordable. If you think $100,000 to $150,000 is affordable. For me, it was well worth it. And so is this delicious cognac. All right, guys, I hope that answers all of your questions about the Rolls-Royce Phantom and what it's like to buy and own one and daily drive it. I hope that you too can achieve your dreams and that you can get one of your very own and share this fantasy with me. You don't have to be a rich guy. You just have to be, or girl, you just have to be successful enough that you can afford to spend a little over $100,000 on a luxury car and to keep up with the insurance. The insurance on this car isn't as crazy as you think. I'm spending a couple of $1,000s a year on it. Of course, I'm 45, I'm a home and business owner, so I get a good rate because I have a lot of cars, but it is affordable. It's affordable enough for me to daily drive this car. Gas mileage, it gets about 15 miles a gallon. It gets better than my Cadillac CTS-V, so it's not that hard to own. It's really a great car, and now that they're getting more affordable, you're gonna see more and more of these hitting the marketplace. Well, it's starting to get dark, and I'm in the ghetto. I'm gonna get the hell out of here before it gets dark. I'll catch you guys later, and thanks for watching. Hey, make sure that you smash that subscribe button and turn on your notifications. I do live videos all the time, and you don't wanna miss one. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm Videobob. Ra-ta-ta-ta, I'm in the ghetto. Pardon me, do you have any Grey Poupon? Thank you.